Tonight, police caution drivers in the mid-north, issuing 6 citations over the weekend. And the Port Augusta workshop providing emotional support for the forgotten victims of addiction.
From our 7 Spencer Gulf Studios, your nightly news with Madeline Kerr begins now.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. Since Saturday morning, half a dozen drivers have allegedly been caught doing the wrong thing on regional roads, charged with serious driving offences across the York Mid-North. And with the festive season only just beginning, it's a timely reminder to be responsible behind the wheel to avoid becoming another statistic.
The first of many driving offences kicked off on Friday night in Kadina, where 2 men were allegedly caught drink driving. One of the men was a 50-year-old man from Collingwood whose probationary licence has been taken away for the next 6 months. Early Saturday morning, a P-plater was allegedly clocked travelling 57 kilometres an hour over the limit, 167 in a 110 zone along the Augusta Highway. The teen from Port Augusta was reported for speeding and breaching his provisional licence conditions. A few hours later, just after 5:30, CFS and ambulance crews were called to a 2-car crash at Wallaroo. Both drivers were breath tested, with one allegedly returning a blood alcohol reading of 0.171, more than 3 times the legal limit. Thankfully, neither driver were injured. Later that night, a 26-year-old Kadina man lost his licence after returning a positive reading of 0.136, again almost 3 times the legal limit. Drink driving offences continue after the weekend, with another driver being fined after being caught drink driving in Warnertown just this morning. The 35-year-old Stirling North man allegedly returned a positive result of 0.068. He was fined $880 and lost 4 demerit points.
Community workers, healthcare professionals and counsellors have gathered in Port Augusta to hear from staff at the Family Drug Support Group. FDS worker Angela Tolley says family members and friends of a person with an addiction need their own support and resources in order to help their loved ones.
The battle against substance abuse continues in Port Augusta, but Family Drug Support is fighting back, holding a workshop at the Salvation Army. Representatives from across the region gathered to discuss how family members and carers can gain their own support structures when involved with someone who is struggling with addiction. For Angela Tolley, the topic is incredibly close to her heart.
I lost my son from substance use, and it's a very difficult thing to go through. But it's rewarding to work in that space where you are able to help other people where they're fearing the worst as well around that person they care about.
Part of Angela's work as a support worker is manning the phone of the FDS's 24-hour hotline, providing advice and remedies for the often forgotten, silent victims of addiction.
It's a great one for family members. It's anonymous, so very confidential as well, and that way they can just offload in the middle of the night with those things that are getting on top of them and overwhelming them.
Out here in regional areas, people suffering from drug addiction are more likely to be feeling isolated and can have more difficulty reaching out.
It's amplified in a place like Port Augusta, and because there's a lot of stigma around substance use, it means that people don't come out and talk to other people about what's going on for them. So it's very isolating, and we understand that.
Daniel Pizarro, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Broken Hill's Christmas pageant returned over the weekend, and it looked like the whole town showed up, with locals lining Argent Street to catch a glimpse of this year's floats, and of course to see Santa and his elves. Once the parade wrapped up, crowds converged onto Sturt Park to enjoy the markets and a bite to eat while listening to some live music. The much-loved markets returning to their original location for the first time this year. Meantime, Port Augusta's commercial road markets have been declared a huge success, returning for the first time post-pandemic. Local businesses saw crowds turn out early to grab sales, discounts and food, and to hear the roar of motorbikes for the toy run.
Commercial Road was a hive of activity on Saturday morning, as visitors tried to beat the heat for the grand return of the Commercial Road markets. Also known as the Augusta Markets, the event returned following years on ice due to the pandemic. And judging by the numbers, there's an appetite for more.
It's all worked out really well. The stalls are well spread out. We've got jumping castles and face paint, that's worked out really well. And it's turned out to be actually a nice day. It is very hot.
It's a great opportunity for people to just reconnect. So obviously people are out spending money, which is good for the economy, but opportunity to connect with people as well. So you're out in a social atmosphere.
In the former Coles building, you could escape the summer heat and try lollies from Wilsden's Deli or marvel at the bikes on offer from CBR Cycle Garage.
Augusta Markets is a great thing for business community in terms of small businesses, backyard businesses, side hustles, all that sort of stuff. And it has been very hectic today, which is great to see everyone out and about. Right now there's people absolutely everywhere, and we've found a lot of interest with what we're doing around, electric bikes.
As the morning continued, another big Port Augusta event roared into life along Commercial Road. The annual toy run saw hundreds of motorbikes enchant the crowds.
I didn't know how many were coming through, but it was really great to see. It worked really well. The speed came through. The kids loved it. It was really good to see us work together with that one.
The former supermarket space has already been suggested as the site of more regular markets and one-off events due to its massive size right in the heart of Port Augusta. Daniel Pizarro, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Still to come tonight, defying the odds, adapting to their surrounds. How Port Pirie's mangroves continue to thrive. And our reporter Joshua Mercer heads east from the far west for the Wilcannia Community Markets. Welcome back. Researchers at the University of South Australia recently conducted a study on the grey mangroves living around the Port Pirie smelter. And their findings are surprising, to say the least.
Thriving in adversity. Mangroves are described as the environmental guardians of our coastline, and a recent study has confirmed this to be true.
They're growing in some quite contaminated areas, and they seem to be doing fine.
The study tested the health of the grey mangroves around the smelter, which have lead and zinc levels 60 and 151-fold higher than regulatory guidance values.
What's happening here too is that there are lots of metals that are bound and fixed in amongst the roots of the mangroves that aren't as available as you might think based on the sort of the headline contamination levels.
This poses the question, what would happen if these mangroves were destroyed?
That would be a problem because there would be a big slug of contamination that's quite accumulated that would then be released.
At the moment, the metals trapped in the mangroves are no cause for concern. But researcher Craig Stein says there are other potential threats.
Things like oil spills are potentially really problematic for mangroves. And maybe climate change, if we got a big enough rise in the sea level so that the mangroves drowned and didn't have anywhere to retreat to.
Despite these findings, people should still refer to the Department of SA Health's advice if considering eating fish caught near the smelter. Annabelle Francis, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Battered by floods in recent months, the far west town of Wilcannia is soldiering on, remaining open and accessible despite the ongoing weather situation. Community markets are being held in the lead up to Christmas, a chance for locals to come together and put some money back into the residents' pockets.
200 kilometres east of Broken Hill lies the regional town of Wilcannia. A once thriving inland port, Wilcannia bustled with life, transporting wheat and wool along the Darling River in the 19th century. A river that is now the fullest it's been for a while. Despite the swollen banks, the town remains open to visitors.
It's important to know that people can actually still come to the towns by road to actually experience our communities.
The town holding its first community market day over the weekend. Locals headed out to Baker Park to support stallholders. Deemed a success, another market day has already been penciled in.
We've got a number of stalls here, and we anticipate on the 19th there'll be a lot more stalls, and we invite people to come along and enjoy the experience of our market day, as well as experience Wilcannia.
Wilcannia recorded over 200 millimetres in October. The sheer amount of rainfall has meant the town's been keeping a close eye on evacuation orders. But it hasn't been all bad for the central Darling Shire.
So with the rain we've had in the last 6 months, it's been a great, it's rejuvenated the countryside after the drought back from 2018 through to 2021.
From one extreme to the other, Wilcannia continues to rise above. Joshua Mercer, 7, Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us after the break. The different ways heat can affect your pet this summer. And it's not just hot paws on the sidewalk. And Broken Hills Theatre 44 puts on an epic end-of-year concert for locals. Welcome back. After a wet and windy year, last week's burst of hot weather seemed like the perfect time to get out and about with man's best friend. But with summer weather comes more threats to pets' health, such as heat stroke, burns and illness, things pet owners should look out for on their daily walks.
Pet owners to keep a lookout this summer. Last month, local vets reported a sudden spike in dogs presenting with parvovirus in Wowler. With cases still prevalent in the city, the RSPCA says owners must remain vigilant as the weather warms up and more infected dogs may be out and about.
We always have some cases come up around this time of year, and Whyalla and the surrounding area are among South Australia's parvovirus hotspots.
Spread through faeces, the disease attacks the dog's intestinal tract, causing them to suffer from diarrhoea and severe vomiting.
And until the vaccination levels are raised, this will continue.
The RSPCA says parvo isn't the only thing to keep an eye out for this summer, with pets becoming much more susceptible to heat stroke when exercising and left in confined spots. They say dogs should never be left in closed cars, as temperatures inside can more than double even on mild days, with temperatures reaching upwards of 40 degrees in some Spencer Gulf cities over the weekend. The heat inside the locked car could be fatal.
Some situations it can be quite difficult and time consuming to forcibly open the vehicle. And while that's taking place, it puts more pressure and potential distress on the animal.
In summer, surfaces like sand, concrete and asphalt also have the potential to heat up beneath pets' paws. So to avoid severe burns, the Animal Welfare Agency advises owners to walk their pets early in the morning or late in the evening. Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Theatre 44 ended 2022 on a high note, paying tribute to a bygone era, as well as getting into the festive spirit. The crowd was entertained, singing along with the performers, and some proud parents looking on.
Taking to the stage to sing the classics. And some quintessential Christmas songs.
A lot of hard work, but a lot of fun. The kids enjoyed it thoroughly. I think the parents did too. Yeah, they love to see their kids on stage. And that's the whole purpose of it, is to get kids on stage and get the confidence up.
The Moxie Drama Club also performing, doing a version of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, to the crowd's delight.
Elise and Fran have been working all year with Moxie. They took over from me, and it's good to see some people doing a good job with it.
Moxie is a drama club for kids aged 8 to 15, and they are looking for some new members. So if your dream is to perform on stage, now is your chance.
It costs $25 a term, but that can be paid for with the Creative Kids voucher.
Organisers also took some time to thank Chris Doherty and Gary Kent for volunteering to clean up the theatre and give it a fresh coat of paint.
We had wonderful fellas that volunteered to refurbish the front of the theatre. They spent a lot of time painting it all very meticulously and beautifully.
Big things are happening with the theatre in 2023. Follow the Theatre 44 Facebook page for all the details. Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us after the break. We recap the cricket played in the Northern Super League over the weekend, which combines teams from Whyalla and Port Augusta. And after a scorcher of a weekend, we'll have this week's weather details with Alex Sykes. Welcome back. Now that we're officially in summer, things are getting turned on their heads in our local cricket leagues. Over the weekend, some teams snagged their first wins of the season, while others just continued to steamroll the competition. Here's Edward McCarroll with this week's Cricket Wrap.
As the weather heats up, so do the rivalries in our regional cricket leagues, and it makes for some very entertaining matchups. Starting across the border in Broken Hill, round 7 of the Barrier District League did not disappoint, with front-runner teams West and North facing off. North batted first, and despite slotting some nice balls early on, things began to fall away for them after Austin Wilson left the crease. From then on, West continued to take wickets, seeing the men in blue go from 3 for 50 to 9 for 89 at the conclusion of their 40 overs. With their task set, West took to the pitch and showed their competitors why they're still number one. North would just have to wait for another opportunity to knock them from the top of the ladder. In the other match, South got their first win of the season over Central, who remain winless so far. The Roos' Ben Franklin took 5 wickets and new recruit Nick Christos took 4, helping dig South out of their winless slump. Over in the Upper Spencer Golf League, teams were warming up for the finals with a vengeance. Central Whyalla made light work of Rapina, not losing a single batsman when it was their chance to step up to the crease. In a closer contest, South Augusta went 7 for 176, defeating Quorn, and Central Augusta beat crosstown rivals West Augusta by 88 runs. This means it will be North Whyalla facing off against Central Augusta in next week's final at Bennett Oval. In Port Lincoln, Todd Rivers' batsmen struggled to square up against the overwhelming force of Tasman. The other game was a similar story. Wayback batted first and tried their best, but when it was Southern Air's chance to bat, Liam O'Day decimated any hope Wayback may have had. Finally, in Port Pirie, despite Luke Fowler's 40 runs not out, Proprietary just couldn't produce the same goods as their competitors, Southport winning that match by 23 runs. And in the last game, Wandera beat Port Germain. The Rams can thank their boy Patrick McNamara for that win, making 155 not out. That's it for this week's Cricket Wrap. Tune in tomorrow night where we'll take a look at the region's other sporting results.
Thanks, Eddie. Time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather with Alex Sykes. Alex, a fair bit cooler today compared to the weekend.
What a change a few hours can make, Maddie. 40.3 degrees in Whyalla on Sunday, but just 24 today. It was a bit warmer in Broken Hill, recording a max of 28 degrees at 3:13. Port Pirie topped 26 degrees 15 minutes later. Cooper Pedy reached 37.5. Looking more broadly at today's weather map now, 23 in Whyalla and Adelaide, 22 in Kadina, just 20 degrees in Port Lincoln. Taking a look at the satellite image now, a high pressure system will move south of the Bight, eastwards, and weaken before another one forms, while a low pressure trough is expected to move into the west of South Australia by Saturday. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. East to south easterly winds 10 to 20 knots, becoming variable about 10 knots in the middle of the day. Seas 1 to 1.5 metres, decreasing below a metre, and south to southwesterly swell less than a metre. Port Lincoln partly cloudy and set to reach a high of 22 degrees tomorrow, 26 degrees on the way for Cleve, Woodner a shower or 2 and 28 degrees on Tuesday. A shower or 2 around Whyalla tomorrow as well, between 15 and 27 degrees. Showers and 30 in Port Augusta, partly cloudy and 26 in Kadina, down to 11 tonight. Possible showers around Port Pirie, 28 degrees. Clare heading for a top of 25 tomorrow, partly cloudy conditions there. A chance of showers around Broken Hill, 29 degrees. If it does rain, there will be less than a millimetre in the gauges. Taking a look Further through the week now, starting with Wednesday's weather. Partly cloudy conditions across the eastern parts of our map. 30 degrees in Broken Hill, 24 in Port Pirie and Kadina, 22 in the capital. To the west, windy conditions around Whyalla and Port Augusta, 22 and 24 degrees respectively. Moving on to Thursday's outlook, a sunny top of 31 degrees in Cooper Pedy, Woodna blue skies and 27. The sun will be out in Port Augusta as well, heading for a maximum of 25 degrees. Elsewhere, partly cloudy and 26 in Port Pirie, 24 in Kadina. Cloudy conditions around Port Lincoln, 19. And finally, taking a quick look at Friday's forecast, partly cloudy conditions across the region to end the working week, but temperatures are set to creep up a bit. 33 in Woodna, 30 the top in Port Augusta, 29 in Port Pirie, Adelaide and Broken Hill, both heading for a top of 25, 27 in both Whyalla and Kadina. And that's all the weather from me for tonight. I'll see you a little later with an update. It's back to you, Maddie.
Thanks for that, Alex. And that's the local news this Monday. I'm Madeline Kerr. From all of us here, thanks for joining us. I'll have updates a little later, but until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.